your study, you talked a lot about public transit because it was mentioned in the master plan. And it's almost sort of treated as a given that Pittsboro is going to develop a mass transit system similar to what we see in the bus system in Raleigh or Chapel Hill or other large cities. And I think before we take that on as a given, we need to give it some more thought. Just from my personal experience living in Chapel Hill, it's been a long time since I read a Chapel Hill annual report from the planning department, but the last time I did, one of the things they reported was ridership in the Chapel Hill transit system, and it reported that something less than 10% of the population of Chapel Hill ever sets foot on a transit bus. That's one of the most expensive departments to operate in Chapel Hill. It's the largest single fuel user in the town, so it's the largest single polluter in the town of Chapel Hill. And it's a free bus system, which means it's obviously paid for by a combination of property taxes, donations from the university, donations from Carver, donations from even Pittsboro, with a little bit of money in there. So before we buy into that very expensive bit of operations and maintenance, I think we ought to give it some additional thought before we treat it as a given in the master plan.
I think the reality of that situation is that the provision of transit services is probably not going to be for us, or perhaps for most folks that are in this room. And that we see that the millennial generation, the kids that are graduating from colleges these days, are actually very high transit users and very low automobile users, most significant in the country. So I think there's things that are going to change over time, and we don't know what the price of gas is going to look like, and we don't know what the price of housing is going to look like in the next 30 or 40 years. But I think the conversation is really about making sure that you don't preclude it as a service, but not about whether you're running a circulator service on day one when the first building goes into place. I would never recommend that.
And I like your point that this really isn't a Chatham Park issue, it's a town-wide issue, and I'm not sure we should saddle this master plan with get that one sorted out.
Well, one of the things that they recognized in establishing that transit system in cooperation with the other towns around it, and especially the university, is they're not building parking spaces. They're building less impervious surface. So the university, I think, is quite clever. I think the town's quite clever as well, to basically co-opt all the parking spaces in that town and to have them serve their needs, and by not constructing impervious surfaces in parking lots. So they are really reducing the vehicular miles traveled for a lot of citizens and really reducing the carbon footprint by doing so. So there are lots of aspects to it. The expense has to be considered against the environmental issues as well.
Chapel Hill Transit